Coverage of the 2024 election. We've got some big news on the presidential race.
Yes, as of right now, the AP and New York Times and I believe the Wall Street Journal all calling North Carolina for former President Donald Trump. So we will see how that falls out. We are still looking at those numbers ourselves with NBC to make a determination if we are going to call that race.
The first of the so-called 7 swing states to go the former president's way. Kristen Severance is watching this race for us live from the studio. Kristen?
Right, so we have been updating the map every single time that a race is called. And so when we look at our state, North Carolina, very important battleground state, New York Times has called North Carolina for former President Trump. The AP also called North Carolina for President Trump. NBC News has not called North Carolina yet, and so we are talking with them before we do make that determination. There are still hundreds of thousands of votes left. So again, NBC News is not calling North Carolina, but 2 other news organizations have. It's important. This is an important part of tonight because it is the very first swing state, battleground state, where these news organizations are really making a determination. We're also paying close attention to Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then the western states, Nevada, Arizona. So again, still a lot of states that we're keeping our eyes on, but this is big news, and as soon as we make a determination on that, of course we will bring you any updates once we determine that with NBC News.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much.
Yep.
The recovery continues after historic flooding in the North Carolina mountains.
Yeah, just more than a month ago, as hundreds of roads were washed away or covered in floodwaters or mud, it seemed unlikely some people could even get to the polls. However, elections officials in the western part of the state, boy, they really kicked it into overdrive to help those who wanted to have their voices heard.
WR's Monica Casey joins us live from Buncombe County. She's been there all day. Monica, they're breaking records out there with their turnout, despite what they've gone through.
Yeah, what we have seen here in western North Carolina today has been incredible. We know those early voting numbers broke records and pretty much everything went smoothly at the polls here today. We got inside this Board of Elections office while they were counting votes, and they tell me they actually finished counting tonight in record time. We also got over to the county's warehouse where poll workers return everything at the end of the evening. That happened around 10 p.m. I spoke with Elections Director Corrine Duncan about the amount of work that went into getting everything done.
I'd like to say that election workers are excellent contingent planners, and so we do a lot of planning to make sure that an election will go as it should. We had no idea that there would be a hurricane as part of this election.
We got an inside look at the tallying process inside the Board of Elections office, and we learned early voting, the counting of it took a bit longer than expected, with some of the election day results actually ready before the early voting ones. That's because they couldn't count those early voting numbers until 7:30 tonight, and there were just so many of them, more than 116,000 people voting early here in Buncombe County alone. We do know right now 100% of precincts here in Buncombe are reporting, and I've taken a look at the other counties that have been impacted by Helene, about 25 counties here in western North Carolina, and pretty much all of them seem to be on track with reporting their results as of right now. Live in Asheville, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
Monica, thank you. That is traditionally a very Republican area.
Yes. Democrat Josh Stein, first of all, let's get to the news about North Carolina. NBC News now calling North Carolina for Donald Trump and the 16 electoral votes there. So the former president, as far as we have it, is now at 227 electoral votes to Kamala Harris's 186.
And here are the numbers with the 90% reporting of the precincts in North Carolina. 50% to 47% Kamala Harris. This is about a 3-point swing, a little less than that. So again, WRAL, NBC New York Times, Wall Street Journal, AP now all calling North Carolina for Donald Trump.
And once again, you see the former president overperforming the polls. The polls were 1 point here, 1.5 points there, both ways the entire way. But that's why you have plus or minus.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly
Margin
right.
of error.
Well, Democrat Josh Stein is projected